name is Christina Kim. I'm the student liaison of the disability section. I'm an MPH student at Downstate University, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm an Asian female with shoulder-length black hair and wearing glasses, and my Zoom background is a wooden bookcase. I will now introduce my co-moderator, Mackenzie Jones, to introduce herself.
Thank you, Christina. And I just want to really thank Christina for all the work she did to bring us together today and build a space so that we can network as students and early career professionals and really hear about what the disability section is about. So my name is Mackenzie Jones. I'm the accessibility liaison for the disability section, and I have been with the leadership team for almost 5 years now, and am excited to continue working with the team and get to know even more students. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Mackenzie. We really hope to have this series of meetings for students and early career professionals every 2 to 3 months to get to know people in the section, to network, and to grow as a community. So today we will introduce some of the many leaders in our section, discuss opportunities for involvement, discuss the mentoring program, and have breakout rooms with discussion questions. And thank you again all for joining, and we will introduce our first speaker, the chair of our section, Carl Cooper.
Thank you, Christina. As Christina said, my name is Carl Cooper. I am a white male with glasses and brown hair. My Zoom background is a solid blue background with my organization's logo and name in the top corners. I work at the American Association on Health and Disability. We are a national nonprofit cross-disability organization, and we specifically work to ensure and promote health equity for children and adults with disabilities through education, policy, research, and dissemination. So that's who we are. That's who the organization I work for. I have been at AHD since 2013, so going on 9 years later this year. My involvement in AHD is actually relevant to my involvement with APHA, because it's through AHD that I ended up getting involved in APHA and the disability section. Also, a little bit before I get into too much of my history with APHA, I'll talk a little bit about my background. I am a person who was born with a disability. I have my limbs were affected due to a rare genetic disorder, and as a result, I do have mobility disabilities. I can walk short distances, but I use a power wheelchair for most of my walking. And my arms are shortened. My left arm only goes to my elbow, and my right arm is even shorter than that. But as a result, I've had some mobility challenges over the years. And it was my involvement at the very first APHA conference I attended when I was at AHD that sort of got me involved in the section leadership. That would have been the fall of 2013. And that year, the conference was held in Boston, as it will be this year. And one of the things about the Boston location is the convention center is not necessarily near downtown where all the hotels are. There are a few hotels that are near the convention center, but the vast majority of the hotels, they require shuttling for. And since I use a wheelchair, I had read on the conference website that there was accessible transportation for the shuttles available from the hotels to the convention center. I found out a little too late that meant that you had to pre-reserve the shuttles, that they do that. Not my understanding would be is that all the shuttles would be, when they said they were accessible, that all of them would be, but that's not the case. The case is that there is one accessible shuttle that you have to request in advance so that it picks you up. As a result, I missed the opening plenary session, and it took me a couple hours to end up getting there. And based on that experience, and also the other thing I should point out too, it's not ideal as well, because lots of times when they would drop me off with the accessible shuttle, they would then ask me, when do you want to go back to your hotel? Well, you don't always know when you want to go back to your hotel. You know, you might want to talk to some people after a presentation, or you might want to go back early because something came up and you've got to go back to, you know, your room to work, you know, something came up for work and you've got to go back to your hotel room and maybe get on your laptop and do some work. So that sort of lack of flexibility was something that really affected my experience at my first conference. And based on that experience, I was mentioning something to my organization's executive director, who had been previously very involved in the section, and she knew that there was a position for the accessibility liaison that the section had. And the chair at the time was Tony Cahill. And she reached out to Tony and she said, hey, I think I've got a person, if you're looking for someone to fill this accessibility liaison spot, given my experience at that first conference. So that was my introduction to this. I ended up coming on and really doing a lot with accessibility. One of the things based on my experience that happened there was we talked to APHA and we said, hey, there are, you know, these people that have especially mobility disabilities. This is a real problem for the way they experience the conference. And one of the things that they had done was, when there is a city like Boston, it's also true in Chicago, where you've got these convention centers that aren't necessarily near where the hotels are and shuttles are required, that they have given the disability section a day's advance on the housing reservations. So they open up the housing reservation for our section early, so people that really need to be in the hotels that are within walking distance, or in my case, rolling distance of the hotel, they are able to, we're able to get advanced access to those hotels, so that we're able to make sure that we are able to experience the conference like everybody else does, and we can come and go as we please. So that was one of the positive things that sort of came out of that situation. Sometimes there's other cities that it's been hosted in, like I know it was in just a couple of years ago, it was in Philly. When it was in Denver, those particular cities have a lot of hotels near the convention center, so it's not as much of an issue. But that is one of the nice things that we have found about the APHA, is we've really developed a strong relationship with the organization to really be able to raise some of those issues. And I know Mackenzie's continued to do that, especially as we've transitioned to virtual the last 2 years, and a lot of the challenges that that raises as it relates to accessibility for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, or people who are blind, low vision. We want to make sure that these virtual sessions and meetings are just as accessible to them as an in-person meeting would be, which does require extra things to be put in place. So that was one of the things that we've done as a section over the years, but the section does more than that. And in terms of my specific role as the chair, is responsible for, one of the main responsibilities that I have as the chair is overseeing a small grant we have with the CDC Center on Birth Defects and Developmental Disabilities. Not the greatest name for the center, but that was what was set up in law decades ago, and we're still living with that name. But the National Center on Birth Defects and Developmental Disabilities provides a small grant to, well, they provide a grant to APHA, but then part of that is a smaller grant that goes to our section. And it really, there's deliverables on that, but the main two deliverables boil down to this. Number one is trying to make the experience for APHA disability section members more accessible. So it does include, then we can use those grant funds for captioning at an event like this, or for you know, things that we do at the conference to make sure that there is full accessibility. The other thing it does that it's a special interest to those of you who are students is it does allow us to provide support to our students and really do student development and working with developing the next future leaders of our section. So this is what allows us to offer scholarships to attend that can be used to attend the conference. They're not solely limited to only the conference, but that's their intent. And if you apply and submit an abstract as a student member, you can be eligible to submit for that application for a scholarship. So those are the kind of things that we do as a section. As the chair, that's one of the main things that I oversee. I also lead our executive council meetings, which meet monthly with our other section leaders, and making sure that everything is running smoothly that we need to do. So in a nutshell, that's what I do as a chair. The other thing in terms of interests that I have, especially with this section, and every chair has their own area that maybe is of more interest to them than other chairs. My organization does a lot of work at the national level on policy work, and specifically health and disability policy. So that is an area of interest that I have. So I'm interested in what we do in terms of positions that we take and the like. So that's another area that I have of interest. Some of that's also born out of my background. As if you didn't figure this out from my name on the slide here, I am an attorney by education and training, and actually practiced law for about 15 years before I got into national disability work. So that's a little bit about me. I'm happy to answer questions if people have questions about the section. But really, we want to make sure that, like I said, one of the main things we're supposed to do with that CDC project is to really work on developing our future leaders with the students in the section. So if there's things that you think of that you think that you would want to be supported in doing, you can always feel free to reach out to the section leadership, and we want to try and see what we can do to help our students have a successful involvement in the section, and make sure that they feel like they have the ability to really be integrated into the section leadership and really be able to support us. And I'm sure we're going to be going over a lot of the different committees that we have and section chairs that are built into the disability section. And we always are looking for student co-chairs for those roles. So there's many opportunities to get involved if you want to. So with that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Just
okay,
barely.
I can't tell. Just barely.
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
Let me see if I can turn up my mic here. Let's see what mic we got set up here. Let's see.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wrong microphone. My name is Kevin Bear, and I am a PhD candidate right now, and I am studying medical history. I got a bachelor's in sociology with a minor in anthropology, medical anthropology, and then I got a master's from Johns Hopkins in liberal arts. So I'm here because I'm disabled. And I found you guys, this group, by accident, which I'm glad I found. And now I'm going to get involved. I'll graduate with my PhD in history next December. And I'm ready to do the next step and get involved in the community and do what I can do for disability section.
Okay, great. There's going to be a lot. I think we're going to be talking about some of the different chairs that we have. So by all means, be looking at that and see what maybe where you think you could get plugged in. But we'd love to love to integrate our students into the section.
Yeah, I'm trying to get involved.
Great. Good to meet you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we also have other sections that we might not be able to get into today, but for future meetings. And you at the end of the slideshow, I will provide my email address, and you can contact me or Mackenzie for opportunities. Thank you.
And I'll throw my email on the chat as well if you don't have it in the slide deck. If people want to reach out to me directly, they can feel free to.
Thank you, Carl. And now we will introduce our past chair, Meg Tracy.
Thanks, Christina. And hello, everyone. I'm Meg Tracy. I'm in Bozeman, Montana today, where Montana State University is, but my everyday is in just 3 hours west on I-90 in Missoula, Montana. I'm at the University of Montana. And I just was going to share with you my perspective of being in the section, starting as Kevin as a doctoral student, and how important the section has been to me in my professional development. And then just thinking about current opportunities for students and early career professionals with you guys. For me, I started, when the National Council on Disability really called for public health to include people with disability more fully in its agenda, and that was the late 80s. And I would go to other professional meetings, and I remember going to a national conference early for one of those pre-conference workshops, a full day on public health and disability, public health surveillance and disability, which is where I was really working with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to develop surveys to assess health and set health agenda priorities. And I went, and it absolutely was not about that. It was about trying to measure Down syndrome and other conditions in the population. It was not about treating people with disabilities as a population, engaging them in public health. And I felt like a fish out of water in that, large national organization, in the work that I was having the opportunity to do as part of this paradigm shift. And then I went to my first APHA disability section, and I felt totally at home. Like, they're they're using the same language that I hear advocates using. This is going to be supportive of my work, and it always has been. So for me, I just felt like the knowledge that I was gaining with the community was relevant in the section, and so it has always been a home. At the same time, I was also working very closely with researchers who had conducted a longitudinal study with deaf and hard of hearing families. Either the parents were deaf and hard of hearing and their kids were as well, or sometimes the families were hearing, the parents were hearing and the kids were deaf or hard of hearing. And it was a big longitudinal study, and it was really bringing forward the idea that, having access to a full language model was really supportive of cognitive growth, and some of the national data bearing out that deaf children of deaf parents were graduating on par with their peers or hearing matched peers on math and reading levels, whereas deaf children of hearing parents were not. They were well behind. So that was super exciting to me. And then again, just to be thinking about, how do we create a field that is inclusive, welcoming, and supports those deaf individuals to be leading on issues of relevance to the deaf community. So that, again, the section really resonated with me, and there were members like Mike McKee and others, Steve Barnett and others who were really carving that out within APHA as well. So I got involved, and Gloria Cron reached out to me at some point and asked me to be the secretary, and you don't say no to Dr. Cron. So I started to be the secretary and was for, I think, 4 or 5 chairs. And then Steve Kay asked me to be chair, and I was happy to try and step into that role. And now I'm the past chair. I think for me, one of the things that Steve really started was this opportunity for students to co-chair with the chairs in the executive committee, and really wanting to support that work with Willie Horner Johnson, who preceded me as chair, and grow that into a program. And so there's, I think we want it on one hand for it to be like a really structured program with clear opportunities, but at the other hand, be flexible enough to what students want to do and to fit their interests, because APHA is a huge organization and it takes a while to really understand. I still don't understand all of the opportunities, but I think today, we want to offer both the opportunities we see that are part of our program, but to also be open to things like Meredith Williams brought to me. So Meredith and I started our conversation years ago now, it seems, at an APHA meeting, just meeting each other and staying in touch. I think I was the chair-elect at the time, and then slowly beginning to understand the need for a mentoring program. And then starting to kind of reach out to, AAPD and other partners and think about, that was a role that Meredith wanted. That was the student leadership role she wanted, was to be working on mentoring. And so we created that. It didn't exist. So I just wanted to offer that too, that there are opportunities to lean in and help and serve the membership and the field and in these committee roles, but also if you see a gap, this is a moment for transformation, and we should be thinking with students and early career professionals about what's needed. And then the other thing I just want to offer is that Kevin, thanks for bringing this up. It is the 150th anniversary of the American Public Health Association in Boston this year. And so there is a big focus on the history of public health. And I think it will be really important for us to represent the history of people with disabilities in public health in an accurate way that also is, I guess, embedded in the history of public health, in a way that recognizing all the faults, but also the opportunities to grow as a field. So maybe there's something, Kevin, for us to find that is not going to be a part of how we're currently thinking about a conversation for us to start. And that's just an example for other students as well. So anyway, happy to be on today's call and hearing from everybody. Thank you to Christina and Mackenzie and others for organizing it.
Thank you so much, Mike. And now Mackenzie will introduce some of the committee opportunities. And again, as I mentioned, these are not all the committees. And as Meg mentioned, we are always open to you where you see a gap in our.
Thank you, Christina. And I realized I did not give my inclusive introduction earlier. So I am a white woman with short blonde hair and glasses, wearing a bright orange sweater. And behind me is a grove of, I forget the kind of trees, but that's okay. Lots of trees in Montana. And I'm excited about this new opportunity. So we used to have what we called student co-chairs. And we still want to promote those positions. There's one student or early career professional participating alongside one of the chair members. And that's how I got my start, as the accessibility student co-chair with Carl for 2 years. And then now, as he moved to the chair, I became the accessibility liaison. And this year we wanted to build an opportunity for more students to be engaged. And so we've created these committees that are focused around the different leadership positions. And some committees that are open for students include the awards chair, which is run by Linda Longbalil. And if you're interested, I'll put my email in the chat after this. This committee, it reviews nominations for disability section awards. You attend bi-monthly meetings, and prior to the conference, you attend nomination discussions and really work to identify those people in our community who deserve that award the most. And so it's not a lot of time commitment, but it's a fun way to get to know different people in the organization and really understand what is the work that's being promoted out there and how are we supporting that work. Another committee is the Chairs Forum Committee, and Vijay Vasudevan is the lead on that. And his goal this year is to help plan and organize for the webinar series, or in this case, the Chairs Forum at the APHA annual meeting, focusing on the intersection of ableism and racism in public health, including recruiting panelists and organizing topics of discussion. So if you're really interested in supporting health equity on a intimate and discussion-based platform where we can have presenters of diverse backgrounds and really talk about that intersection of race and gender and sexuality with disability. And I think VJ wants to focus on the power of the vote this year too, especially because the APHA annual meeting is on the midterm elections date. Before we pass it off to the program chair, I will let Libby take it over. I just want to highlight, like, we also have the accessibility committee. And if anyone's interested in learning more about being secretary, I do have students already working with me, but I'm always open to collaborating with other committees and really building a position that focuses on the mission of our section, but also addresses your needs as students and early career professionals. So thank you. And Libby? And I'm not sure if Libby's on the call. I just did a quick scan. And that is okay. But
Mackenzie, do you mind if I just mention a few other things? This is Meg.
Sure.
Great. So the way we think about our executive committee and our bylaws is that any of our chairs are really chairing a committee. So when we think about the program, the idea is that we have a committee. Now, we're a volunteer organization. It's really hard to organize committees, but we're really trying our best to do that. So be flexible with us. Give us, have some patience as we try to, coordinate committees on a volunteer basis. And during a pandemic, that's really challenging. So I just want to say that. But the communications committee is another, if you're interested in helping to communicate with our membership and more broadly, using our kind of traditional communication channels as well as social media platforms, helping us to promote benefits of being a member. All of that is part of the communications committee. There's also our membership chair, and that's somebody, Yochai Eisenberg, who is really trying to build the benefits of the membership and make sure that folks in our broad interdisciplinary field know about the section and opportunities to participate in APHA through the section. And then from, across APHA, members who are working in other sections who may not even be aware of the disability section on our focus. So I just wanted to mention those two. We also have a policy committee, and that's a group that's working both within APHA on internal policy as well as external policy, trying to make sure that APHA is aware of the broad disability policy agenda, and that we're bringing that forward into the APHA policy work as best as we can. So those are just a few more opportunities to be thinking about. We've also engaged students in some of what we call work groups within APHA. So there are different work groups that are focused on themes like gun control, rural, RURAL, public health, and so some other really topics or themes that connect this broad field of public health, all these sections within APHA around shared issues. So we've engaged students in some of those areas when they've had those kinds of interests in those work groups. So again, just really wanting to say we're open to talking with you about what your interests are and seeing where you might best fit within this structure.
Thank you, Meg. And lastly, was the program chair to help build that program of what sessions are going to be included in the conference. So I want to make sure we do have time for breakouts. So I'll send it back to Christina to introduce the mentoring program.
Thank you, Meg and Mackenzie. And we will now introduce the mentoring program. We have Meredith and Mike McKee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike McKee. I'm a little congested. We got over a cold, not COVID, fortunately. But anyway, just wanted to briefly describe myself. So I'm middle-aged, white male, wear glasses, and I'm wearing a thin jacket with a Michigan logo. I'm at the clinic office. So I wanted to just kind of provide some updates regarding the disability section mentoring program. This has been a labor of love, but all of us are really passionate and excited about this because for many of us, this was so pivotal for us to be able to move, advance in our careers, to identify student and training opportunities. And so this is an opportunity that we're hoping to leverage and expand ways to find out where those training opportunities exist and allow for some matching, especially life experiences. So it's one of the things that is often overlooked when you have a student or a trainee with a disability who is actually looking for a life mentor. And so that is another avenue through this mentoring program. So Hada, Dot, myself, and Meredith have been working on this for the last few years. And so we actually have grown. And so I believe we're now over 30 mentees. And I think we have roughly about 25 plus mentors. I can't remember the exact number. And so I want to thank everybody who's actually participating in this. And if you are interested in this program, feel free to reach out to us. Again, this is a phenomenal program. This is really more of an informal setup, but it's a great opportunity for you to learn from others what strategies this can be in terms of coping. It can also be about learning opportunities where if you want to get more involved in research, public health. So again, feel free to reach out. I want to turn it over to Meredith, who's been so instrumental to this program. Meredith?
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Williams. I'm going to be quick because I want us to have time for our breakout groups. I am wearing glasses. I have brown curly hair. It is cold in Wisconsin today, so I am wearing two jackets, a gray one and a black one. And behind me, there's a cream-colored wall with a door and some windows. I'm one of the student co-chairs for the Disability Section Mentoring Program. I'm also a PhD student in public health at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I live with chronic illness and disability. I have a rare genetic autoinflammatory condition and multiple types of immune deficiencies. And like Meg explained earlier, I got involved with the executive committee because as a student with disabilities, I was looking around my program. I was looking at faculty, I was looking at staff and students. I didn't see anyone who was like me. I didn't see anyone who could understand what it was like to try to navigate a PhD program with disability and particularly chronic illness. So I was looking for mentorship, and I brought that to the disability section and then was given basically the support and opportunity to create a program like this. So if you're interested in getting involved either with the mentoring program or with the disability section in general, I would encourage you to do that. And I put a little bit of information about the mentoring program in the chat box to not take up too much time, but you can visit our website or email us directly. And I hope that you get involved, and I'm looking forward to talking to everyone in the breakout rooms.
Thank you so much, Mike and Meredith. So now we will go into the breakout room.